What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video. Today I just want to talk about kind of the 1 week what I've been doing this past week in Mandarin. Now, before any, just in case you click on this video because it's titled, a week into Refold or whatever the case may be, this is obviously not a video of me talking about a lot of progress, more so just saying what I kind of did. Just a brief backstory in case anybody's new here. I started studying Chinese in October of last year, and it's been off and on, but I've not ever studied it intensively. I did go through Yo-Yo Chinese beginner course one, or the beginner course, so that laid a little bit of a foundation. That was over the course of, again, 6 or 7 months, and it kind of helped me get a little bit of a foothold within Chinese as far as just being able to recognize some things. And then I wanted to get serious about it. So last Saturday, I started Refold. So technically today is day 8 because it was Saturday through Friday was my 7 days. Today is Saturday. I don't know when this is going to be uploaded, but so the first week I knew coming in that it was more so going to be about finding what I could do, what I wanted to do in terms of learning Chinese. Now, I am, for the most part, following kind of a Refold system. It is very aimed at immersion learning through watching TV, using subtitles and things like that. But I'm definitely doing a couple of other things as well. But that's kind of one thing I'm doing differently versus last time I intensively studied a language. I'm having fun with it, and I'm not overly concerned about how other people think I should learn. I'm just documenting what I'm doing. That doesn't mean I'm not going to take people's opinions into consideration. For example, in my last video, I talked about wanting to start remember the Hanzi, and a lot of people had pointed out that it might not be that good of an idea because I've already been through remembering the kanji. I know a ton of kanji, and honestly, I can read not a ton, but I can read a pretty fair amount of Chinese characters because of how similar they are and things like that. And then, of course, I downloaded, I think, 3 or 4 Remember the Hanzi decks, and they all sucked. So I think I am going to just maybe read through. So again, that's just an example of, I'll take into consideration and see, but like my main goal is to just have fun and do what I want to do. So as far as things that I'm doing and what I did this week, I did basically 3 hours a day. That's what I wanted to do. Now, I know some people might think that's not really overly intensive, but this is the last summer at home with my son before he starts kindergarten. And so my goal over the next few weeks until he starts kindergarten is to spend as much time with him as possible. And I thought 3 hours a day is very, I don't think bad. 3 hours a day of study, immersion, whatever you want to call it, the exposure to the language, I think is a very, very good thing to do. That's 21 hours. Technically, I spent 21 hours and 2 minutes with Chinese this week. So I hit my goal exactly where it was. When he goes to kindergarten and I have a little bit more time, I'll assess the situation, but also I don't want to put any kind of added stress on myself. I'm not concerned about trying to impress people spending 8 to 10 hours a day in a language. I don't care that much anymore. I care about learning, but I don't care about people being like, oh, I can't believe you spent that much time. I really don't care because there's a lot of other stuff that I enjoy doing outside of language learning as well. So anyway, 3 hours a day is what I wanted to spend, and that worked really, really well. It gave me plenty of time to spend with my son. All the work that I have to do here at home for a couple different people, I got done, and I still had time to spend with the language, so I will consider that a success. I don't record or count or any of that stuff passive listening like I did when I was trying to do when I was doing Japanese. Just because I don't, again, I don't care. I know that I'm listening to Chinese music or whatever the case may be while I'm, playing or whatever the case may be. But it's not something I actively record. Any of the time that I talk about is spent on that. Now, I don't have a breakdown of the time because, again, I don't want to just overdo anything. So I don't have it mapped out like, 5 minutes was for study and then 10 minutes was on this and an hour was on sentence mining and then an hour was on, immersion. I don't have anything like that. And again, I just didn't want to overdo it. It starts to get one of those things where you're trying to track someone, and I love people that do this. It's just, for me, it just becomes such a thing where I'm spending so much more time thinking about what I'm tracking, and that takes away from me actually learning. I mean, I can set it up in an app, but it's just like, you start second guessing, what should you count this? I mean, it's immersion. Should I count it differently? So it's all together. What I can tell you is, of the 21 hours, I've watched 18 episodes of Meteor Garden. So they're obviously not an hour each. They're about 40 minutes each. And then I've, Sentence Mind. Part of that time has been, well, okay, to be fair, I did watch an episode of Meteor Garden today. So I actually only watched 17 episodes in the first week. So, but some of that time was spent intensive immersion, where I'm going through the subtitles and looking things up, and then the other time was spent just trying to watch it, and just take in what it is. I did sentence mine. I've mined 77 sentences so far, so that's about 11 a day, or not about, that is 11 a day, 7 divided by 77. And that's going pretty well. There's obviously cards I struggle with. There's cards that that I don't. There have been cards where I brought them in. I have 77 as of now. I had more, but there were some cards where I thought I knew them at the time when I mined them, and then I thought, you know what? I don't know this that well. And this is a thing where I've grown as a language learner, where I just decided, you know what? I don't care. Delete the card. I don't understand. I thought I knew this word and I don't, and now I'm kind of lost in what it means because I'm also trying to figure out this other word. You know what? Delete the card. I'm not. It is what it is. And with immersion, I also do two things. One, I watch YouTube, obviously without subtitles. A lot of YouTube don't have subtitles or translated subtitles or whatever the case may be. When I'm watching Netflix, right now, for the first little bit, I'm going to watch with English subtitles. And the reason for that is, A, it's what I want to do, so that's what I'm going to do. But B, I really have this, I haven't watched a ton of Chinese content. And so I know a lot of times when you're starting, and if you're learning a language that you've, watched, say, a ton of anime and Japanese, it's just like, oh, hey, watch stuff you're familiar with because you already know it. Well, the problem is I don't know that stuff in Chinese. I haven't watched a ton of Chinese media. And a lot of the Chinese media that I have watched is probably like martial arts films where it's in Cantonese, so that doesn't help me. And so for the first little bit, I'm watching that. But I am getting both immersion in, the one where I'm watching just in Chinese the way it's meant for native people. That is what I spend a lot of time on YouTube on. And then with Netflix right now, I'm just trying to get a couple of shows under my belt. And then I'll go back through and watch them kind of in that true immersion form. And honestly, it's going really good. The thing that I've noticed is I've picked out words from seeing the word in English and knowing. Now, obviously, and the other thing is I've also noticed just already at how when I see a subtitle and if it's translated and it doesn't match what the thing is, and I know that translations aren't a one-for-one, and that's, I think, the dangerous thing, especially if you're a super beginner, is thinking that what you see and what you hear is the exact representation of that subtitle. But it's also, again, it's cool to be able to look at that and say, that's not what they said. Sometimes it's close, sometimes it's not. But anyway, I'm not concerned about it. I'm learning stuff and being able to hear that. Sometimes you'll see the phrase written across the bottom of the screen, and I'll hear the words, but it'll also trigger that word in my head, and it's almost like training me to hear it, and I'm recognizing it in multiple contexts instead of simply the one that I mined or whatever the case may be. So that's going really well. The immersion is going super well. The only other things that I'm honestly really doing, I did drops 3 times, I think. So 15 minutes of drops over the course of the last week. And it's just because it was cool. And I thought, it's a way to get a little bit of bonus vocabulary. But then I thought, I don't know. I could probably spend my time, even that 5 minutes, just doing a little bit better off. And so I would. I do a little bit of lingo deer. Again, not much. But I do it mainly just for a little bit of grammar reinforcement. I think that part of the reason that I did advance in Japanese, even though my Japanese sucks, but I think one of the only reasons I did advance at all in Japanese was because of lingo deer. Just the way that it introduced vocabulary and things like that. So I am using it for Chinese. It is a Chinese company, so the Chinese course is like, and the Japanese course I found to be really good, but the Chinese course is like even better than that. So, you know, I'm using that. And plus two, it's a little bit, I don't use Duolingo or anything, because just some of the way that words are spoken is just terrible because they use the computer. But what I like about Lingo Deer is obviously everything is like recorded, or it sounds like it is. Maybe I'm an idiot, I don't know. Everything sounds like it's recorded by a native speaker. And also when I do it, I turn off, I don't have the pinyin on, so I actually use Lingo Deer as a way to read characters. And it takes me a lot longer to go through a lesson, but I'm not using the pinyin. So anything that I see is specifically from recognition of those characters and being able to read it. So that's going pretty well. Also do a little bit of Hello Chinese, and that probably a little bit redundant, but I am becoming more and more a firm believer of having multiple people explain to you the same context just to get a different kind of sense of the way that different people are explaining it. It's actually helping a lot. And that goes the same way with Yo-Yo Chinese. Again, I probably could pick one of those and spend a little bit more time on each, but I really enjoy kind of the review of going through the grammar. You know, I remember the first place I learned comparison using be is like from Yo-Yo Chinese, and it was the examples they would give would be like Mary be Katie Piao Yang, like Mary is prettier than Katie, or whatever the case, whatever the sentences they were. Well, that also came up in Hello Chinese, but it had different vocabulary it was using, but it was so it was like training that concept of using be to compare, or like if you were used to use gunny yang for like they're the same or whatever, and using the same vocabulary, and that definitely helps a lot. Honestly, that's been a huge help. So and honestly, I just kind of like with the way that it's going. Sentence mining has helped a lot. I've picked out a lot of words, and honestly, from where I am mining and I'm seeing more and more words, I wish I would have done this in Japanese so bad, but here we are. But I am noticing that when you're going through, there's words that I have started to pick up that I'm not learning. Now, obviously, I'm not picking up the exact tones. Like I know, for example, I think it's like bisai, which is like competition. I don't know what the tones are exactly. I know that in Migaku, it's blue, so I think that's a down tone. So it's B, and then whatever sai is, I'm not sure. But that is a word I've never studied. But there was a specific episode of Meteor Garden where it was referenced a lot, and just over the course of that episode, which was I watched maybe 2 days ago, it's just stuck, and I know that word, and I can recall that word. And that's just from seeing it over and over, and specifically while I was going through sentence mining. So, you know, starting to see the benefit of that. So that's pretty much it. This first week was really just getting into the swing of things, trying to make sure that I could do what I needed to do, spend the time, and really just kind of focus in and settle in on what I wanted to do. And I think that I nailed it for myself. I feel really good about what I did. Obviously, again, I'm not, I don't know Chinese after a week. Hopefully nobody thinks that, and then I'm not saying that. But it's more so about just getting into the swing of things and making things happen. So this week has been really, really successful. I obviously want to continue the momentum. I'm not setting a goal for next week or anything like that. My goal, if you want to call it, is just continue doing what I'm doing. I'm not trying to add anything or anything like that. I'm going to keep sentence mining, and then just a tiny bit of grammar on the side to introduce and just kind of, get it into my system and carry on. So that is the update as of right now. I'll always take any kind of advice or anything like that down in the comments below. Like I said, that helped me with my issue on Remember the Hanzi. And hey, it is what it is. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm not one of those YouTubers yet that can say a bunch of stuff in Chinese before we end or anything like that, but maybe one day. Not worried about it. I'm just having fun. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video.